of 68 after dark. Welcome in, everybody, to a Sunday, December 7th edition of Field of 68 After Dark. Happy Sunday. Unless you're a Notre Dame football fan, probably not going to go down as a very happy Sunday. But this is a college basketball show, and so that's where we're going to keep our focus. Very busy day. Some ranked teams in action today. North Carolina gets a big win. Kansas just absolutely lays it on to Missouri in the border war. We will talk about all of it today. I am John Martin, joined tonight by Randolph Childress and my guy Justin Jackson. This is our first time working together. Justin, how we doing, man?
No complaints, man. Just happy to be here on this wonderful Sunday. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. We'll recap what went down yesterday again on a very busy Saturday of the sport. But North Carolina, let's start with the heels here. Big favorites today against Georgetown, 10.5-point favorites, and they handled business, 81-61 over the incoming Georgetown Hoyas. Justin, you'll get the honors here. This just felt like a pretty complete win from North Carolina. What were your takeaways from this one?
I think this year, which is crazy how it flips from years prior, but this year, majority of the games that North Carolina goes into, I'm confident that the front line is going to be able to win that battle. I think for me, the question mark kind of going into different games is kind of what does the backcourt do? And I think for me, we're kind of seeing, which I've been saying since summer, whenever I went back there and got a chance to play some pickup and just kind of be around the guys. I think we're seeing slowly but surely a guy in Derek Dixon kind of step into I'm not going to say like the starting and number one point guard role, but stepping into a role that could just grow and get bigger and bigger as the season goes on. And so for me, that was the most, encouraging thing to see from that North Carolina. Obviously, Georgetown just kind of outmatched. I mean, it's tough when you play against a team like North Carolina where you've got Caleb Wilson and Henry Vasar on the inside. You got to be able to hit shots from the outside, and 4 for 23 is not necessarily going to do it. So, I guess we'll see once North Carolina is able to get, fully healthy and get all their guys back.
Yeah, RC, obviously this was it felt like a pivotal year. Every year when you're at a blue blood is pivotal, as Mark Pope is finding out. But this felt like a really crucial year for him and the trajectory. And again, we're not an ACC play yet, so I don't want to go overboard, but it does, 9 games into the season, RC, it looks like Hubert's got some real stability with this group. At least that's how it looks to me. What are you seeing?
I think we all agree that the talent is there. We see it. I think Seth Trimble is more important than people give him credit for, because I think his ability to put the ball in his hand, play point. I think Kyan Evans is a little better with the ball off the ball. I think he's struggling a little bit trying to manage everything. I think getting him off the ball will allow his offense and his jump shot to come around a little bit. But Derek Dixon he's earned a spot in the rotation. Like, let's call it what it is. I mean, there's no more going back to the bench. I mean, he's going to play 20 minutes a game. So wherever it comes from, it comes from. So and that's the weakness of Carolina. Everyone's concerned about the backcourt. Getting Seth back, and now what Dixon has been able to establish does well. But I think the critical thing for Carolina is, like we talked about, is they had to get off to a good start, and they did.
Mm-hmm.
This was the job everybody was going to talk about. If they stumbled out of the gate and hadn't beaten anybody, if they had lost, Kentucky, or they had lost whatever, it would just have been, everybody would have just been like, hey, Hubert's got to go. So Give him credit. They've answered the bell. I know you know this, Justin, as a Carolina grad. I mean, everybody was kind of all eyes on Hubert this year, man. And to quiet the noise, they needed to get off to a quick start, a good start. I think they're good. I think they'll be really good in ACC play. I think they've been one of the more consistent teams in the ACC in a much improved league. I think Duke and Carolina, picked to finish 1 and 2, have looked the part.
Yeah, Justin, in terms of just, I obviously every year at Carolina, the goal is to compete for a championship. Some years that's more possible than others, just the way it works. But when you look at this team, and again, it's early, and you talked about Seth Trimble, he's not in that lineup yet. When he comes back, is this team, are we going to be talking about this team for a championship?
I was bold enough to say, I mean, this was a top 10 team when fully healthy. Obviously, before Seth got hurt. I think one thing that you know, you can sit there with a guy like Seth, right? Obviously, Caleb Wilson's getting all of the hype, which he should, and probably more. But with a guy like Seth Trimble, he does literally everything for the team, right? And when I say that, it's defensively, he'll guard and usually wins the matchup against the best player on the other team. Offensively, I think what North Carolina is hurting from right now without having Seth is really the only guy on the perimeter that can get downhill and put pressure on the rim whenever he wants to, without a play being drawn up, without a pick and roll happening, whatever it is. Seth's really the only guy on the perimeter that can create that type of advantage. And so now you bring him back into the fold and you still have those two guys down low. You've got guys like, RC is talking about with the, Kyan Evans being more of a, hopefully being able to be more of a spacer, a guy like Derek Dixon coming out. Now you've got a guy that you've got shooting and spacing around, but can get to the rim whenever he wants to. I think that gives this, obviously a team that's had a huge win in Rupp, had some big wins to start the season off. It adds a totally different dynamic to this team that we haven't fully been able to see yet. So that's what I think, when he comes back, I'm most excited to kind of see how everything gels together.
Most definitely. By the way, RC, you're a DMV guy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know you didn't go to Georgetown, but you're a DMV guy. I'm an old school guy. I like college basketball better when Georgetown is good. It's been a minute. And obviously, this was Georgetown's first real road game of the season. So my expectations were pretty low. But just in terms of, do you feel like watching Georgetown this year that Ed Cooley's trajectory there is pointing upward?
I think it's still pointing up. I mean, I'm not soured on Georgetown. I think everybody expected Georgetown to kind of, when we first got the job, we heard of like the NIL deal, and we were like, oh man, it's going to flip quick. I think since then the market's changed as well. And I think he's, I believe in Ed Cooley still. I don't think it's probably not as fast as everybody would like, I'd say. But this team to me it's going to go as far as KJ Lewis and Malik Mack take it. They're going to have, they're going to rely a lot on those guards tonight. They struggled. You knew they would with the length of Carolina's front line, having two guys that can provide some rim protection. So for those guys, the issue with Georgetown is going to be scoring. Man, they're tough. I think they're not going to face as many front lines capable of giving you 20 and 15 like Wilson and Vassar is. So
Yep.
their issue is going to be, can they make shots, man? Georgetown's going to be, to me, as good as they're going to be. They're going to be coached well. They're going to compete. I just don't know how well they're going to score. They'll always have a puncher's chance in that league to me. I think it's UConn, St. John, and I think they'll be in the mix fighting for third, fourth, or fifth.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to St. John's. But just before we move to Kansas, Missouri, Justin, did you have a thought just watching Georgetown, on the other side of that game today, just their makeup and, can they be that third place team in the Big East or better? I mean, is that possible?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit before we got on here. I mean, all Ed Cooley teams, I remember he was at Providence whenever I was at school. Like all the teams that he coaches are, they're going to be gritty, hard-nosed, physical, play hard. That's the identity that he puts into teams. Going 4 for 23, shooting 17% from the three-point line in these kind of games, I think is where, to kind of RC's point, like you have to be better from the shooting aspect of things and scoring. So, if guys like KJ Lewis and Mac are able to carry that load and other guys are able to kind of step in and maybe make a few more shots here and there, I think obviously the trajectory is for sure going up with a coach like Ed Cooley and, guys like that. But I guess we'll just kind of see, if the team is capable of doing that offensively. And if they are, then, who knows?
All right, on to the border war. Darryn Peterson said, "I got to get back for this one. I've heard so much about it. I got to be in the lineup for this one." And RC, man, it was pretty much all Kansas in this one. They win the game pretty handily, you would say. In this one, Darryn Peterson had 17 in his return. this Kansas team performed pretty well in his absence, you would have to say. Now they're back. How dangerous is this Kansas team with Peterson back in the lineup?
Let me say this. I think they've been the most impressive team without that star, knowing how important he is to this group. To see how they play without him, I thought Kansas, and there's not many teams you can say, take your number one guy off. You take Caleb Wilson off Carolina, then you're not having it, the season they've had so far. You take, Devanza off BYU, they're not as good. So credit to Bill Self and the rest in that crew, man. I mean, they've held it down without him, and you can see he's special. You can see how gifted and talented he is. With all the hypes about, let's hope he returns. I mean, he left this game as well. Let's hope it's no re-aggravation of a hamstring or anything else. So the fingers crossed that he's back, he's practicing, he's healthy. Maybe they just rested him because they were in total control and no fear of losing this game. But what he brings is a much-needed ability to score from the perimeter, and he makes the game so much easier for everyone else. So, he's their most talented player. He's their best player. Them being that good without him, I think he's huge for them because of, again, what he brings. And now he gets to play himself back in. They didn't dig themselves in a major hole to force him to have to play. So let's just hope he's all right. And if he is, I expect Kansas to shoot up in the rankings.
Justin, to that point about what Kansas did without Darryn Peterson, obviously beating Tennessee, and they were right there in it with UConn. I don't think relative to Kansas standards, anybody would ever accuse this Kansas team of being the most talented. Like, it's not. You get past Peterson, it's not just littered with lottery picks or anything like that. But obviously, they came together in his absence. Like, what allows that? Is that coaching? Is that culture? Is that like just having the right guys? Like, just what enables that to happen when a guy like Peterson is out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a mixture. I mean, for one, it just gives guys more freedom, right? Like you can probably take a few more shots that you wouldn't shoot if Darryn Peterson was on the floor. Maybe some of the plays that are being ran for him are now you're getting a couple touches off of those plays. So you have that, but I think a big part of it too is coaching, right? It's kind of you always hear people say the next man up mentality, but I look at a guy like Trey White, right, who was kind of obviously he was a good basketball player coming in, but heavily overshadowed by, and once again rightfully so, Darryn Peterson. And now you look at kind of what he's done since his absence, and even in this game. Now you bring a guy like Darryn Peterson back in, who at the end of the day, the best players, one of the jobs of the best players is to allow everybody else to kind of play their role. Right now, guys don't have to play outside of what they do. So now with Darryn Peterson back, now Trey White can still have the same confidence doing what he does, but with less attention, probably more space. You saw a bunch of times, heck, in this game, Darryn Peterson there was two or three guys that converged on him whenever he drove, and it was an easy kick out for whoever was on the perimeter. So I think there's never a time when bringing a guy like Darryn Peterson back hurts. But having him now with the guys with the confidence that they have in going in those games that you talk about, I mean, this team could be pretty good.
Absolutely.
They can defend. The way they defend, John, I mean, the way they defend guys, they're going to be in games. They got size on the, on the perimeter. They got rim protection. They're going to be in games. It's been a different guy with them, whether it was Jackson, whether it was Council. It was always a different guy. It took less pressure off Trey White when he comes back, but they needed him. I mean, hell, today there was even a Bryson Tiller sighting. He's the one guy I think if he steps up, and makes perimeter shots, what he does to that team changes things as well. I think everybody will get better looks offensively with the talent like Peterson on the team when he, with him being back. Again, they're going to defend. This team is tougher. They're just a get downhill, drive it team. But again, having Peterson back makes it easier for everyone else. I think it'll get the shooting better because the guys will get open looks. So Kansas is battle tested, man. They're going to be there when it matters. They're tough as hell, but they need their guy like everyone does.
Yeah, RC, I'm gonna come back to you because it's crazy. We're talking about, and I agree fundamentally too. Like, if he's in the lineup, they're going to end up being, I think, a contender by the end of the year. But it's crazy that you can look out and, like, if you just go by KenPom, Kansas is 5th in the Big 12. Like, that's how loaded this league is.
Right.
And so I guess I would just ask you, we're just using KenPom projections right now. Like, can they finish better than 5th in the Big 12, which, by the way, is not bad. I mean, when you look at, again, the teams we're talking about, Houston, Arizona, Iowa State, what they did to Purdue, but can they outperform that current projection by the end of the year, you think, in 5th in the Big 12?
I think they could. The problem is how healthy is Darryn Peterson going to be? They need him. I mean, you can't afford any injuries with him. Houston, we know, is going to be there. Iowa State, man, I mean, they're right there.
Ooh,
Texas
buddy.
Tech, we know, is going to be right there. I mean, Arizona is probably number 1 team in the country. So it's not a bad thing if they're 5th. I mean, we're not talking about it. It's not out of the realm. It's not like
it's just crazy to say that, though. Kansas 5th in the Big 12.
Yeah.
You know, like
when we were talking, when we said this before, last week, Rob and I were on and we were talking, and Rob said he thought the Big 10 was the best conference, and I was like, and I kind of was like, the Big 12 isn't far behind, and it's just it's just now, just because Purdue with Iowa State did to Purdue, it swings the pendulum toward the Big 12. But I've been a Big 12 fan. I mean, that's it's been a long time since Kansas has been picked 5th, but when you look at the rest of the league, I mean, I there's not an argument to be made. But if they want to improve on that, they're going to have to get healthy, and Darryn Peterson's got to get reps and start continuing his development as he moves forward. So if healthy, they got a shot, because most times than not, when will he not be the best player on the floor when they play?
Absolutely.
I think it's the question. And if you got him and he's the best player on the floor, you got a chance to beat anybody. So I don't care what who they're playing, Houston, Iowa State, any of those guys, he's going to be the best player on the floor, the most talented player on the floor. And if he plays to that talent and is the best player on the floor, then it becomes the way Kansas defends. Then they can beat anybody. So, and they've proven that without him. But he's that elite of a talent as he continues to improve. So, yeah, I mean, they could, but his health depends on that.
People would argue, by the way, that probably the only game where that would be a debate would be BYU, where he's not maybe the most talented player on the floor. I don't know where you're at on that, on the GM hat. I think I'm a Devanza guy if I'm picking one, but reasonable people can disagree. That's the whole thing. I mean, and the whole point is that, he's one of the, 2 most talented guys in the sport. By the way, we're talking about the Big 12. We're talking about the Big 10. Pump y'all chest out a little bit, fellas. The ACC, we're back. We're back. I mean, I know it's been a down couple of years. I know we've been in the gutter a little bit, but we can come outside for a little bit now.
Yeah, we're
not ready yet, huh? We're not ready to start
talking.
Let's let conference play.
It's easy to me. I don't even know what you're talking about, because I don't think we ever went with. Yeah, it was a down year or 2, whatever. But I don't need to sit here and defend the league.
Right? No, you're fair enough. Fair enough.
I mean, it's still historically the best league it's ever been. It don't need me to defend it. We in an analytical world, and all the analytics is pointing toward that league. So it is what it is, man. I don't need to defend that league. It stands. You're right. It does a good job on its.
Rob needs to defend the Big East every episode. Like that, like he's got to do that. Like, what the hell has that conference become? It's absolutely nuts. You're right about the ACC.
He got his Huskies. Right, he got his Huskies back now.
You know what? That is all he cares about. Very selfish. All right, we're going to come back. A huge day yesterday in college basketball. We talked about probably it would be difficult for anybody to have a better win than what Iowa State did yesterday at Mackey. Just absolutely insane. So we'll get into all of that and everything else that happened on Saturday. Stick around. Watch Field of 68 after dark.
As you know by now, we have teamed up with BetMGM again this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we will have special offers for Field of 68 fans, including same-game parlays, best-in-class live betting, and daily odds boost. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD to get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. You download the BetMGM app, you sign up using bonus code FIELD, you deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. Make this college basketball season one for the history books. Make it legendary. And don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. If you're not a member of the Field of 68's On3 community, make sure to go check us out. Get access to all of Jeff Goodman and Rob Doster's written content, including coaching carousel breakdowns, info on who is and isn't entering the transfer portal, insider recruiting information from none other than Joe Tipton, X's and O's analysis of all the teams in college basketball, and access to our message board community. A 7-day trial costs you $1. The Field of 68 on 3. Get the scoop.
Welcome back, Field of 68 After Dark, presented by our friends at BetMGM. John Martin, Randolph, Childress, Justin Jackson here tonight. I am contractually obligated by the network to ask you two about. I still have to ask. Yeah, I still have to ask. I'm being told I still have to ask contractually about Kentucky and the nightmare season it is having. RC, Mark Pope is. I think for him, there's really not much else he can say. Like he's already put himself through the public lashing, and he's doing it again and again and again. This team is just not winning games, and that's really the problem. Just what are your overall thoughts on this Kentucky program right now?
Listen, man, it's struggling. I think we've said it all along from the beginning. The pieces don't fit. I think everybody's kind of had their say, and I don't disagree with anybody. I think that there's something going on. I think in the locker room, there's something going on with this team. They're not competing the way you would expect their talent level to dictate. I think that's the biggest concern, that something's wrong. It's not just losing games. That you got a lot of moving pieces. There's no excuses, Kentucky. I think they missed in the portal a little bit on guys. It just didn't click as much as I think he has a lot of shot takers, not necessarily a lot of shot makers. He's got volume shooting guys, and analytically though, that's okay if you're going to shoot a number of them, but they're not good enough defensively to overcome that. It's going to be a long, tough year. And if Jalen Lowe doesn't play, then I don't know where they go. And getting Quaintance back it's not. He's an athletic guy. He's not a bucket. That's not what his game is. So I don't know where the improvement comes from, other than looking in the mirror individually and trying to get better. It's concerning for and then the weight of the expectations. I think them and maybe St. John to an extent have been really two early disappointing teams for where we expected them with their talent level and their preseason expectations.
Yeah, Justin, is that, and I think that is kind of the danger. I would imagine that if Mark Pope had a choice, he would not have played the portal lottery as hard as he played it this year. But, guys left, graduated, and that's just sometimes the way it goes. But is that the peril of reaching in there and depending on it like that, because you just don't really know how guys will come together?
Yeah, I think Kentucky, it's a few different things. Like I think one, to RC's point, I think the expectations that we were putting on this team were too lofty to start with. Obviously you see, the dollar amount that this roster took to build, and Mark Pope's obviously a great head coach in college basketball, but it doesn't, like, from the jump, I never was like, okay, this team works well together. Like, for one, you bring in a guy, like Jalen Lowe, who gets hurt, or, and then you've got basically a guy in Aberdeen who is a great basketball player, but all last year was behind probably the best guard in the country in Walter Clayton at Florida, right? And so now you bring him in. Now he has to be the starting point guard for the Kentucky Wildcats. Then you've got more guys that just aren't really, like RC saying, not really shot makers, right? Like, you look at the games, the ranked teams that they've played, they've shot 24% within those games from three, right? And in those games, there has to be some sort of shot making. And so I think there might be some things going on in the locker room now because of, once you start losing a couple and you start putting them, you start seeing some of the articles and things like that, it can kind of break up a locker room. But at the same time, like, without conference play starting yet, I think a guy like Mark Pope can figure something out. I don't necessarily know what. But I think it's just it's tough. Like I think you're probably gonna see more of this with the way the transfer portal is, right? You just kind of try to go out and get the best players available, and yet they don't necessarily fit with what you got going on. And so, I think that's just kind of what we're seeing now with Kentucky.
But that's the
RC,
problem. You got an unlimited checking account. You got to get it right. It's on you just to get it right. Like
Right.
you got an open checkbook. You can sign whomever you want. Again, they look good on paper. We thought the depth was there. It is what it is. They have been as probably the most disappointing team, I think, in college basketball to start the year for the expectations and talent. Everything's going to be talked about. Justin, I said this maybe a couple of years ago, and I thought it started with Michigan State. But for different reasons. I thought Carolina did this the following year when they came back from the Final 14 when they were number one. They were rated really high, just never from the very beginning looked like that they were ever going to be that team we thought. And I think that's Kentucky this year. I don't think Kentucky will ever be what we expect them to be or thought they would be when we looked at their roster and talent from the beginning of the year. If Quaintance comes back, and he's an elite athlete, right? And that's tough to do as an athlete in the middle of the season from an ACL. If he comes back, now he can provide rim protection, and that could change something. Now, if he can start blocking shots and they can get out in transition, make up for some of their issues, then it makes the game a lot easier, which he could do. But it's unfair to him to put the responsibility of just of anchoring their defense. Of that team. So we'll see what happens, man. I mean, I'm not holding my breath on Kentucky doing much of anything. Lowe's going to be in and out of the lineup. He's one bump from, the shoulders issue. They are what they are. I know he just came back, tried to make a comeback. We'll see if he can sustain it. But if we're waiting on Quaintance to come back and finish this, then I think they're in trouble. I don't see where the reinforcements come from. And they got a big stretch coming up here, man. We're going to find out a lot about those guys. They got Indiana coming up. They got back-to-back games on their schedule. I can't remember who else it is, but they got back-to-back ranked opponents, and we're gonna learn a lot about them.
Yeah.
We're gonna learn a lot about Kentucky real quick. Like they don't have time to sit around and pout. It's St. John's. We just talked about it. Like two teams that I just said. It's ironic we were talking about that. Two teams that I've had, and I'm more partial and understanding to St. John's than I am Kentucky. But St. John's was just a top 5 team. And
right.
They obviously beat Ole Miss, and so it's ironic. Who wins that game? I mean, that's a massive, massive game that Kentucky, I think, has to show up with Indiana and them. So the next 3 games, they got Central. They'll win that next, and we'll see.
Yeah, to your point, I don't think anybody's pulling out the small violins and playing it for Kentucky because they're the biggest. They're the biggest spenders in the sport. Justin, how much of a target do you think that makes them? Like, just I know that there are a lot of schools that have healthy bankrolls and spend, but just when you're playing Kentucky, knowing that those guys spent $22 million, how big a target does that make them?
I mean, they've got a big target just by being Kentucky. First of all, I mean that's you walk in knowing that, right? But then you add and you start seeing public record of what you're currently making and what the checks are that you're getting. Of course, these teams that are playing against them that probably have a way less amount of money coming in as far as NIL. Of course, they're going to want to take them out. But I don't. To RC's point, like it's never an excuse, especially when you have that kind of money. I mean, you could go get the best point guard, best small forward, best power forward. Like you could literally hand pick whatever you wanted to. But what's confusing to me is it's like I watched the UNC game where Kentucky played UNC in Rupp, and they went on a stretch. I want to say it was like 7 minutes towards the end of the game, where they missed like 13 straight field goals, and I think they scored like 2 points within those 7 minutes. So I guess when I watch it, it's like, what's going to fix that, right? Like an athlete, albeit a phenomenal athlete, but an athlete coming off of an injury isn't going to fix that, right? Like one point guard, albeit he might be able to help a whole lot if he's fully healthy, isn't going to fix that. Like there's just certain holes and gaps within this Kentucky team that just, to RC's point, I'm kind of with him. Like I don't see anything really drastically changing within this season. So Yeah, I mean, you throw the 22 mil or however much it is, that they threw out to this roster. I think it was just constructed in not a great way, and obviously pieces aren't working and things aren't working out great.
Man, that's tough. It's tough to have been given $22 million to get a roster together.
Nah, man, stop that. We ain't doing that. We ain't doing that.
Well, I'm saying
What's
it,
tough?
and then you got to go back
If you're
and get it again
complaining
next
about a
year.
$20 million roster, then take your ass down to the Chitlin circuit, or go get a damn or go get a low budget ass D1 job and don't have no money and be
That's
broke
right.
as hell and then try to win.
Well,
So
that's what I would
give
say.
me the
Like, don't
22
come.
million. Give me the 22 million, all the problems, and let me try to fix it. That's all. I'd rather have that.
Does Kentucky have a GM?
I don't.
Do we know
I don't
that?
think so. Off the top of my head, I don't believe they do. But I'd have
wanna
to
say-
I
I want to say they don't have a GM, which North Carolina
Yeah.
went through the same problem last year. And I was always, it took me time for me to get to the point of like, man, these teams need GMs, people that can just literally focus on players, bringing them in, how they fit, like where do they fit. But I'm at the point now where I'm like a firm believer. If you don't have a GM for this college
You're-
basketball world,
At that
then
level,
you're
to your point, at that level is criminal. I thought it hurt
Yeah.
Carolina being behind the 8 ball in that, because in today's recruitment, though, these kids don't care what the name is on the front. It's about how much you paying
Exactly.
me and how much time am I getting. They don't care where they get
Yep.
it from, and I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. It's just facts.
right.
Like if my kid was
Mhm.
back in school, I'd say the same damn thing. Like, okay, how much you paying them, and we'll figure the rest out. And that's just what it is. It's pay for play. We're
Right.
not running from that. So that's the critical part. That's where we are right now. And like I said, schools like Kentucky, they'll figure it out. You just got to get it right. But the GM thing is another issue. I don't think teams are really understand how important that is. I had Dayton this weekend, and Jim Paxton's coming back. And he's going to be like a de facto GM, like a basketball, assistant or whatever it is. But his job is going to be to help school. So if a mid-major program like Dayton is hiring someone in that role and understanding how important it is, and I didn't realize how important it was until I talked to Woj at St. Bonaventure when we had it Field of 68 to start the year. When I sat and talked to Woj, I wish we should. I don't know if we have already, and I just hadn't been on when we have. But to really bring somebody like Woj on, or a GM on, and explain to everybody what they're doing and how critical it is this time of year.
Yep.
I don't know why teams at a high major Power 5 conference doesn't have one. And if you don't, you're just really falling behind so many other programs. And almost if you're a Power 5 school, it's just like I said, Dayton has it. And if you don't have it, then how serious are you trying to compete?
That's exactly right. I need a GM for my house because every time I refresh my Gmail, I got a new Amazon order. My operations here are getting out of control. My
Hey,
wife's
you
going
got a
crazy.
Jerry Jones, baby. It's called a wife. She run that. Just sit your ass down and pay the bill. That's all that is.
Man,
your
I
woman.
swear.
You talk.
That's why I'm up here doing Field of 68 shows, and she's on Amazon, bro. This is absolutely crazy.
That's her money.
All right. That's right. Also crazy is what happened yesterday in Mackey. The worst home loss for a number 1 ranked team ever. That's the stat, right? Worst loss for a number 1 ranked team at home ever. It's the worst loss for Purdue at home since 2013. They just got absolutely smacked, Justin, in a way that you just never see Purdue do it anywhere, whether it's at home, whether it's in Alaska. Like, they just don't normally get beat like that. But then, yes, at home as a number 1 team. Is that just a case of everything just goes wrong on one day and that team's going to be fine? Or is there maybe something structurally that you're seeing that showed itself yesterday?
I think to the extent that it happened, everything just kind of blew up for Purdue. I mean, a guy who averaged 20 points all year long, last year had 1 for 8, right? Like, there were some things that happened that just wasn't, it's not going to happen for sure on a regular basis, and it probably won't happen again for Purdue, right? With that being said, I think this showed way more about Iowa State, even though Iowa State, I think in the players era, I think kind of made a statement. I think this showed a lot more about Iowa State and how real they are than necessarily Purdue, everything going wrong for Purdue. I mean, you look at this Iowa State team, you look at all the great teams in college basketball, all of them have some sort of identity, right? Iowa State, defensively, they're going to make you feel probably the most uncomfortable you'll feel all year going against, the Iowa State defense. But then you've got guys knocking down shots. You've got point guard play. I love Joshua Jefferson. Joshua Jefferson to me is probably top 5 most underrated players in college basketball because of everything that he does for this team. And then you've got TJ at the helm, who in my opinion is one of the best coaches in college basketball as well. So I think watching that game, Purdue played awful at home. You can sit there and you can worry all you want, but Iowa State, I think, really went in there and made a statement of, hey, nobody was really talking about us, and we just proceeded to, after having a great showing in a big-time tournament, to knock off the number 1 team and beat them by the most in the history of NCAA. So, I don't know. I've got mixed reviews, but I think I lean more towards how good Iowa State is in the statement that they made.
Yeah, RC, it was if you have a thought, go ahead. But I was going to follow up. But if you have a thought,
I'd say this: Iowa State is not 23 points better than Purdue. I mean, in the sense that they played again, but their toughness. It's the first time I've seen a team that was just tougher than Purdue. That's something I never thought I'd say. They were the tougher team. They pressured. They had backcourt guys. Everybody pushed off their spot. They initiated Smith earlier. Braden Smith, initiating offense just across half court. Everybody extended catches. They did a really good job. Trey Kaufman-Rim was catching it further off his spots. They were coming to help. They were doubling them, and it was just surprising to see Purdue struggle the way they did. But credit to them. I think it's a lot about Iowa State because none of us thought they were going to be that good, right? We thought they lost so much, and they lost, in Jones and Gilbert. They lost so much in their backcourt scoring. We were like, we don't know how good they're going to be. Deshaun Jackson, they lost him on the front line. And so team lost 3 starters from a year ago. They were pretty good. We just didn't know they were going to be this good again. I mean, I'm as well-coached team and as tough as they is, but I didn't see this coming. This team is really, really good. I know they'd be good defensively, but not as good as they've been. They've been, like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if they go down as one of the last undefeated teams.
It was also, RC, just a pretty bad day for the Big Ten overall. Michigan State, nothing to be ashamed of losing to Duke, but they go down. Obviously, Purdue, Indiana loses to Louisville. You were talking about the Big Ten being the best. I think Rob stood on that. They didn't look like it yesterday. What did you make of the day and just the depth of the league?
I think it's still as good as anybody. Yeah, I'm not off the league. Like Purdue is battle tested, bro. I mean, they're legitimately, with number 1 until, like I said, you had an argument with Michigan, but from the opening tap, they look like they are a top 2 or 3 team in college basketball. So they got a nail. If you're going to take one like that. That's great film, great motivation. I bet the coaching staff isn't upset about that. I mean, I that's a great staff. Met Coach Painter and that group. They'll respond. We've seen them in big games. Like they'll be there. They'll fix themselves. Michigan State losing at Duke. I mean, it's not we're acting like they lost to, like Fairfield or somebody. I mean, come on. I mean, they took care of business all year long. They've been a solid team. They've got some great wins. You're not going to win them all. They took it down to the wire. Really good, competitive, hard-fought game. So I'm not down on the Big Ten. It's still as good as any league in college basketball. So it's just tough weekend. We're at that point. You play quality games like that, you're going to lose games. They're playing these games to get ready for February and March. So credit to teams for even playing these games. Like I'd be glad when everybody gets around, and I'm happy that the teams who have went out and scheduled games play games like that. They didn't have to. So credit to those guys.
Justin, any thoughts for you on that on the Big Ten here?
No, I'm not worried at all. I mean, you look at a Michigan State team, they took who, in my opinion, Duke's a top 5 team in the country. They took them down to the wire with their point guard going over from the field, who is kind of their heart and soul anyways. I mean, in my opinion, Louisville is just a way better team than Indiana. Like, the matchups themselves weren't necessarily great in the Big Ten's favor. So I'm not worried at all. And, we'll kind of see how conference play starts. And I'm sure Big Ten will have a ton of guys go to the big dance. So I'm not worried.
You can't be upset with a team. You're talking about losing the games, and we're talking about losing games to Iowa State, who we know is really good. But let's be clear, Duke and Louisville or Indianapolis good. Like, they're both good enough to be playing in Indianapolis. So losing to those teams at a game is just, it's not a bad thing at all. So it is what it is.
Arizona put belt to ass yesterday against Auburn. I mean, that was an ugly one, but I mean, they're about to be the new number one. So we'll discuss how real they are, and are they Indianapolis bound there in Tucson? Lots more to come. Stick around. Field of 68 after dark.
As you know by now, we have teamed up with BetMGM again this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we will have special offers for Field of 68 fans, including same-game parlays, best-in-class live betting, and daily odds boost. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD to get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. You download the BetMGM app, you sign up using bonus code FIELD, you deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. Make this college basketball season one for the history books. Make it legendary. And don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.
Are you trying to follow everything happening in college basketball? It can be overwhelming. That's where the Field of 68 Daily comes into play. The Daily is your go-to source for recruiting news, game analysis, portal updates, and much, much more. For just $50 a year, you get access to the same information that your favorite coaching staff is subscribed to. Quality content can be hard to find in the college basketball space. The Daily is here to help. Make sure you subscribe today.
Welcome back, Field of 68 after dark here on a Sunday. I am John Martin, joined tonight by my man RC, Randolph, Childress, Justin Jackson. Before we get to toast and the afters, a few more results to touch on from last night. Arizona, who will be the new number one come tomorrow, 97-68 over Auburn. They were up 12 at the half. They kept their foot on the gas. Koa Pete, 18. Jaden Bradley, 16. Just again, a really dominant effort, you would say. A shot 61% from the field. Justin, when you watch this Arizona team, do they have the feel? I mean, they're going to be number one, so there's that. But do they have the feel of champ?
I see they have all the pieces that they need. You've got size, you've got shooting, you've got obviously a guy in Bradley who's not just a good player, but very experienced, and you can tell the way that he plays. He reminds me, not as far as skill set necessarily, but reminds me of like how Newton ran UConn a few years back. Like, just real at his own pace, takes what the defense gives him, just kind of does what he goes into the game knowing he's supposed to do. I love how this team, like, offensively, they'll get into any kind of action they get into, and then their spacing that they have within their offense with the different pieces that they have creates so many problems for the defense. They were it felt like every single time down the floor was a high pick and roll or side pick and roll. Biggs got it in the pocket, and it was just making an easy decision. And if you have Koa Pete in that pocket off of the pick and roll, that's going to cause some serious issues. So yeah, I think that this team, obviously, we've seen Michigan and how dominant that they've been recently. But I think this team has everything that they need to be, heck, easily to the Final Four and in that championship game.
Yeah, 23 assists, 41 made shots last night, RC. That's a well-oiled machine they got there in Tucson.
Who's going to argue that they're not the number one team in the country Monday? Like, it's hard to make an argument there. They're good. I mean, we've seen them enough now to know that they're really good. If they defend, they have everything that you're looking for. And it's funny, like, everybody's starting to give Jaden Bradley his flowers. He came into college, man, being a scorer. Like, he could score the ball, and then I think his role when he got to Alabama, then he gets to Arizona, whatever. It's let me be a defender, and then I thought he accepted that role and was a hell of a defender. What he is for them now is a freaking closer, and now he's in late games. You can put the ball in his hand and say, "Take me home." And I think that's the difference when we start talking about, if we all were to take like a top 8 teams or so that we feel like could go to Indianapolis, be playing in the Final Four, how many of them have a guy where they're like, man, I got a guard, I can put the ball in my hand, and I know he can close games for me? Like, how many teams, like, that's where this thing starts to separate amongst the best teams. Those guys just aren't developed. You either have them or you don't. And Arizona's got that guy in him. So they always scored under Lloyd. They're always going to score points. That was never a concern. Will they defend? Man, I was an ass kicking yesterday. And if they defend, they're going to score. They're selfish. They do everything, the right way. They're going to be fine. They're as good as anybody. Just hope they stay healthy. And like I said, Jaden Bradley has turned himself into a dude.
I don't want to go in too hard, because like I get going into to that place, on the road is it's not going to be easy for anybody. So I don't want to go in too hard on Auburn. But if you'd have told me that you're going to get 30 from Pettiford, Justin, and they're going to get beat by 30, I just feels like that.
Considering the way he struggled too, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you would wait for him to have games like this. Like, he struggled. He 100%. Has not been consistent all year, and he gives you 30, absolutely, and you still lose by 30. It's like, damn,
Well,
that's a hell of a gap.
That's what it is, and that's what I was going to get to, Justin. It's like it sort of scares me about Auburn that, like, do they have enough guys? I mean, obviously it's a first year for Stephen Pearl, but a lot of those guys, he retained. So do they have enough, you think, to compete in the SEC?
I personally, I don't like, what does compete mean in the SEC?
Like, vie for top 3 finish.
I don't think so. I think what's tough is, like, in my opinion, this team has 2 guys and really one guy that going into every game should show up, right? Like, that's kind of where they're at. Obviously, they had some big games in the Players Era tournament and all that sort of stuff. And Keyshawn Hall, I think, is kind of that second guy. He's shown that he can be, a big-time player at big times. But there's just not enough pieces, in my opinion, for this team to be able to, be in that, heck, I'll even say top 5 SEC. Because this was just, they just got blown out. They're not 30 points necessarily worse than Arizona. I don't think so. But at the same time, like, to your point, like, that I'm not him having 30. That's the reason it makes me think that they don't have a chance to be top 5 in the SEC, because, okay, your main guy showed up, but nobody else did. So now going into conference play, games are going to be at this level consistently. Yep. So it's like, if they're not showing that they can show up in this type of game, then consistently, that's kind of what it seems like it might be. So I'll say no. I think they'll kind of be towards, after that top 5 or so in the SEC.
Yeah, tough sledding ahead.
That's like not a bad thing, though. Top 5 is not a bad thing in that league. You got 7 teams in the top 25. I think the league is as complete top to bottom as there is. You're talking about teams that you're not going to expect much out of. Texas A&M took a tough loss tonight against SMU. That was a big game tonight. The SMU Texas A&M game. They're going to surprise some teams. If Texas A&M can make some shots, if you don't have a big rim protector that can protect the rim and control the paint against them and force them to be one-dimensional, you're going to have a problem with A&M. So you talk about that league overall. Kentucky's been a disappointment. Ole Miss has been a disappointment. I mean, it's not as a complete of the teams that we thought. Tennessee's struggling right now. So
Yeah.
again, it's still early. It's mid-December. There's a lot of time to figure it out. But once they get into conference play, those teams are struggling now. When they get into conference play, hell, there's no let up. Texas coming in off a bad loss to Virginia. There's a lot of teams that we expected to be really good that kind of struggled here early. And then again, there's some teams. LSU, got belt to ass tonight. But they've been undefeated coming in tonight. So you can make the argument maybe who they played. But again, they're 8-1 still tonight coming into conference play. Top 5 is not a bad thing. That league will put 9-10 teams in the tournament.
Absolutely. All right. A couple others here. Duke, nice win for the Blue Devils. They stay undefeated 66-60 over Michigan State. Really, really nice performance from Cam Boozer. 18 points, 15 rebounds. Justin, this Duke team 10-0. They're absolutely rolling along here. What have you made of the Dukies so far earlier this year?
This team's really good. This is a team.
Stop. That always pains a Carolina guy to have to say something like that.
I know
it is.
I know.
It does hurt. It does hurt, and I'm sure I'll probably get.
Y'all both got to answer for it, right? It's just part of the deal here.
Sort of
everybody here is from the ACC. You know what I mean?
But hey, you got to be honest. But heck, you look at this team who's like their best player is a freshman, right? Like a team put together. Going back, this is a side note, but going back to how we talked about Kentucky being put together and not having a GM and things like that. People wonder, I think, obviously John Shire is an unbelievable coach, in my opinion. But people wonder why they've had so much success since Coach K left and now, a new head coach stepping in there. The way that they've put together these teams, in my opinion, there's not a ton more teams that have really been able to put pieces together the way that Duke has been able to, right? Like you look, the only question mark for me truly will be at the point guard position and how that evolves, whether it's Foster that stays in there as the point guard or the Boozer twin comes in and is kind of the, that's the one that goes. But other than that, you got shot making in Isaiah Evans. You've got the workhorse in Cam Boozer down low. You've got more size next to him. You've got other shooting around him. And they've beat good opponents already. Like it's not that they're, RC mentioned LSU. I looked at LSU's schedule today, and if I were to put that schedule next to this Duke's team schedule, it's 10-0 and undefeated right next to LSU. It's like night and day. They've played five ranked opponents already non-conference and have won every single one of them. So I think they're really good. I think they're right behind Arizona and maybe Michigan as far as the best teams in the country. But they're a really, really good team from the top to the bottom of that roster.
RC, you got to come to the plate too, brother.
No, listen. I think he hit the nail on the head. I'll say this, and I said this last year. Duke's a point guard play away from winning the national championship. I think they're, they don't have the rim protection they did a year ago. I think that's a big difference too. Though Patrick Gomba's been good, I don't think he's the rim protector that Malawa wasn't. So, hey man, when Caleb Foster's good, they're really good. All right. Caden Boozer's going to be good. I think his size, his switchability. I think defensively they're going to be fine. They just do it differently. Their length. They have Malik Brown, who's an ACC Defensive Player of the Year caliber player. That when Patrick Gomba goes out, they actually improve. Again, the only knock on this Duke team is they don't have rim protection. They got length everywhere on the roster. They got a grown man in Cam Boozer, as we know. They got shot making when they need it. It's the same statement I made a year ago. If Duke gets quality point guard play, and I do believe collectively they are better than they were a year ago. I don't want to dump this all on Caleb Foster's feet, but if Caleb Foster's solid, man, this team they're going to be a tough ass out. I know Caden Boozer, he's a winner. He's going to continue to get better and better. He comes in as a ball mover, fine guys, but if they can get some shot making when needed from that spot, and some quality high IQ play, which they have now, to be honest, it's a reason. I think that's part of the reason why they're 10-0. As much people got on Caleb Foster's ass, you got to give him credit right now. Like he stepped up in a couple of games. He needs to be more consistent. But again, their point guard level, their consistency of their point guard play will be the difference of whether Duke not just goes to Indianapolis if they can win a national championship.
Absolutely. I mean, the win by Iowa State obviously was the headliner of the day just because of the margin. But going into the Breslin Center with a bunch of young dudes like that, like that's
and they're gonna get better. They're gonna get better. They're gonna get better. This team is gonna get better and better as the year goes on. And again, if they get high level, if they can get consistent play out that point guard spot, that's a tough ass team to beat.
I mean, if we're gonna keep it a buck, they should have had a chance to play for the championship last year with Cooper Flagg. I mean, that was an absolutely atrocious foul call. I mean, it just was. There was no foul. I mean, that team was playing as well as better probably than anybody, and they got robbed on that phantom foul call.
If point guards are told just get your ass open and get the ball, if they could get the ball in bounds, point guards that's just embedded in you. That's beating you to get open and get the ball. They win it. So you can point back to a ton of plays, but even after the foul call, if you could just get the damn ball in bounds, you're playing for a natty. So.
You're right, Coach. You're right. My bad, Coach. You're right. You're right.
Nah, man.
There's lots of ball played after that. You're right. You're right. It wasn't the last play of the game. So you're exactly right. All right, one more here before we get to toast. We talked about Kentucky, and I think there's no question that they are they're failing right now. Disappointment is probably too nice a word. They are failing, but I think disappointing. You would definitely apply that word to is the St. John's team. They did win yesterday against Ole Miss, but it took absolutely everything as 13.5-point favorites to get that done. 63-58. We talked about Auburn. St. John's lost to Auburn. They're sitting here at 5-3. They're barely clinging on to the top 25. Justin, what's not working the way we thought it would work with St. John's?
This is, I think. I'll be the one that says St. John's is the more disappointing team out of St. John's in Kentucky, and this is why. Wow. St. John's has I've never seen a Rick Pitino team not have the identity that Rick Pitino is. Ever. Never have. Every team at Louisville, like when he was at Iona, every team is Rick Pitino. You look at this team, and it's probably the softest team that Rick Pitino's ever coached. If out of the teams that I've seen Rick Pitino coach, it's probably on the softer side of all the teams, right? Obviously, you got big fella in there in Ejiofor, who's a problem, right? But everything else underneath that just doesn't. There's not a fighter's mentality. Every time I watch this, St. John's last year, right? It was like, man, if you're going against St. John's, you're probably walking out of there and you need an ice bath. You need some, you're going to need some real treatment afterwards. This team, they just kind of let you do whatever offensively. Them offensively, it struggles to score, even though they've got some guys that I think, have the ability to score whenever they want to. So I think that's why, the identity aspect of this St. John's, I don't really know. I don't see it. And with it being Rick Pitino as the head coach, I've never really seen that. So that's kind of where I'm kind of at a loss for words when it comes to talking about St. John's.
RC, anything on St. John's here?
I honestly, I completely agree. I think it's Kentucky by a mile. I don't even think it's close. I think St. John's just plays an ugly style of basketball in the sense of it's not as – I think it's similar in the sense they're not as good as they've been in the past from a Rick Pitino a team like Kentucky teams, because he doesn't have the pros. He doesn't have He doesn't have the pros that he had on the front line at Kentucky. Running that system. Their 3 losses are who? It's Iowa State, I think, Alabama, and Auburn. I think are their 3 losses. So their losses are the 3 ranked teams. So they're not pretty. They're not going to allow you to play pretty. But this team is a little better than they were offensively a year ago. That team made a run in March last year, and they shot 30% from 3. It was the same style we were concerned about offensively. I got faith in Pitino. Their style they'll get better defensively. They won an absolute rock fight yesterday against a desperate Ole Miss team that needed to win. It's not pretty right now. They're not playing well. But again, I'm not concerned with the 3 losses that they had. Now, again, they're a team, top 5. They're a team that I would say, again, those expectations, top 5 team. You're expecting them to just blow through it, maybe compete against UConn for the Big East Championship. They may very well do that. But right now, I'm comparing them to Kentucky. I think it's night and day. I think Kentucky's been borderline awful. I see light at the end of the tunnel. I see improvement in some areas of St. John. They're just not as good as they've been defensively in years past, and that's something I think Rick Pitino will fix. So they hadn't looked like world beaters, but they hadn't been as disappointing as Kentucky.
I got a question for you, RC. Like when being a point guard, right? Like I never had that type of eyes. Like when you have a team that doesn't have point guard play,
right?
How do you fix that?
You don't, because you can't make it. It's like we talking about. That's why I'm so high on Arizona. They got a point guard that is battle tested and is a closer. Like you can give him the ball and he can close games for you. I think a lot of times with teams but they have an identity at least. I'm more like Rick Pitino teams at least have an identity. We're gonna press you, we're gonna get after you, rebound, go. We're gonna attack you. That's just how they are. They don't play with your traditional point guard. And again, because eventually he's going to need to get the right guy to stay. He'll get that fixed. I thought he had multiple guards last year. Damian Smith, his ability to attack you off the bounce. So I don't know if he's ever going to have a quintessential point guard. Because in his system you got to defend for. He'd rather have a guard that can defend and let me help create offense. I'll draw up all the plays you want. Just score. Give me a hell of an on-ball defender and get after you in the passing lane, steals, and can score it. And then let me worry about creating points on offense. So he's not going the other way around. I think it's more defensive stuff than him. So I don't know if they've ever. That system requires a traditional point guard. He just requires toughness out of his point guards. And so I think they'll be fine. I really do. I'm not worried about it. If they can, offensively, this team statistically is better. Can they maintain that? Like a lot of the statistics early in the year, I don't worry about. But they're offensively better right now than they finished last year. So we'll see what happens if they can continue that.
Yeah. By the way, they're not a titan of the sport historically, so I understand why nobody's really talking about it. But Ole Miss had a big ass budget too now. And they lost 4 in a row. Like that's a disappointment to me for Chris Beard. And I think that's
who's struggling
example.
more right now? The question is who's struggling more, Ole Miss or Tennessee? That's the better question.
I'm gonna say Tennessee. I'm gonna say Tennessee because they have NBA in a mint, and they should look better than the way they look right now. Like if they didn't beat Houston, man, that'd be like a 5-alarm fire right now in Knoxville.
I think it is already. I think it is.
Okay. All right. Well, let's continue that thought. Let's continue that thought. This is going to do it for the main show. We'll continue this conversation. RC says it's an absolute disaster in Knoxville right now. So we're going to go over to the afters and we'll flesh that out. Look, I as a Memphis guy, I love that shit, man. Let's go. I'll do another hour.
I bet you would.
I'll do another hour on it. Let's go. All right, let's do it for the main show here. Keep it locked in for the after.
These my DJ Burns shades I had for.
That was like taking them into the depths of Alaska and just dropping them off.
The first person that's gonna die got to be one of the black guys. They're not gonna make it to the end of the movie.
that's like asking somebody do they want to get a prostate exam or a damn gunshot wound.
Welcome into the afters here on the field of 68. John Martin, Justin Jackson, Randolph, Childress. Just to kind of continue that conversation, RC, Tennessee was a 2.5-point favorite yesterday in Nashville, basically a home crowd, and they were leading at half. But Illinois, my guy Keaton Wagler. I mean, my dude Keaton Wagler was like, "Here I am. I'm about to make every shot I put up on y'all." And you know, Tennessee just could not keep pace. And it's yet another loss for the Vols here. Lost at Syracuse, lost to Kansas without Darryn Peterson, obviously lost to Illinois. You think it's a problem right now? What's going on in Tennessee? What's your diagnosis of the situation?
Yeah, I don't think they can score it. It reminds me of a team. I don't know if they're as good as they've been defensively in past years, but they can't score it, man, and that's a concern. Like they, you know, they're even losing the games that they even get into a rock fight now. They just look like it's tough, man. And if a man isn't just, he's got to play well for them offensively, right? And if him and Gillespie, I think there's so much pressure on Gillespie and I meant to play well offensively for them to score. If either one of those guys have off nights, I don't know where their offense is coming from. They're built again, but they're built on toughness.
It ain't coming from nowhere. It ain't coming from nowhere.
Yeah. Well, they got to defend, and they got to get into this rock fight style. And again, but when those two guys struggle offensively, woo, it's like, damn, it's like watching paint dry.
Oh, it's ugly. I mean, and that's and you know, I'm not sure. Rick Barnes, obviously, Justin has had a very successful college basketball career, and he's done more at Tennessee. Yeah, and he's done more at Tennessee than I certainly expected he would, to be honest with you. But you just wonder, you know what I'm saying? The clock comes for all of us at some point. And that offense
hell no, we ain't doing that. We're not doing that.
It hasn't evolved. It hasn't
Barnes.
evolved, bro.
Here,
Look
man.
at 62 points in college basketball in 2025. Come on, bro. Unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, I look, I live in a place with at times very delusional Tennessee fans. So I see a lot of all of this. The toughest part is they have Nate Ament, but out of all the freshman players that came in that are very impactful, in my opinion, that are like at the top of the top, in my opinion, he has like the most development for himself to get to truly that superstar level. And so if you're talking about somebody who, you know, has a little bit more of an adjustment period maybe than a guy like Darryn Peterson or Caleb Wilson or whoever, and he's like your number two guy when it comes one or two when it comes to scoring, and then that's going to be tough. And then you just don't have anybody outside of him, and then a small point guard who runs off of down screens, and you know, so it's I think it's tough. And also like the part that, you know, they've always hung their hat on just being defensively just a problem, and I think this year they're just not as physically imposing on that side of the floor. So I'm not going to say it's, you know, it's over with for the Volunteers, but I say they're definitely in some tough water right now. I'll tell you that.
I don't think the Illinois matched up well with them too, man. They're big, shooting on the perimeter. I mean,
Illinois is really freaking good. Like they're
Illinois
like that's
good,
you know, yeah.
And they've lost to good teams, right? I mean, the only disappointing loss is we talked about Kansas beating them without Peterson was impressive, but kudos to Kansas. And again, they defend their ass off, and so you play them man to man, you know, without Peterson, and they're going to get to the rim and draw fouls or whatever. So. You know, I gotta say this. My man Slay, Ron. I know Ron Slay. I know you listening. Ron, call me, man. You can cry on my shoulder, man. You know, I'm your big bro. Love you,
Ron.
Man. I know you concerned. I know you concerned. Call me. I know the boom room ain't jumping like that right now, man. Call me.
Come on, Ron. They got 9 days off before they are rewarded with a matchup against Louisville. So
that's a practice you don't want to be at.
Yeah, that's a tough
no
road. Tough road. All right, Dagan, what you got for us today, my guy?
All right, fellas. 2 games I just want to hit on from today that we didn't get to yet. Texas Tech smacked LSU in day one today. LSU undefeated coming into the game. Red Raiders kind of get them a little bit back on track. Obviously, some games they struggled in Illinois and those kind of games. But kind of just your thoughts on the Red Raiders after this one today.
Justin?
A good bounce back game for me. I mean, they played well. I mean, Christian Anderson was lights out today. But they're good. How good are they? I think it remains to be seen. Some people had them as Final Four good. There needs to be more consistency from them before I even say that. And I was one that had them from the beginning, the Final Four good, but nothing to be concerned about overall. I mean, they're fine. If Toppin stays out of foul trouble, and they can keep him on the floor. He's a double, a big. You gotta trap him in the post, and he's a hell of a passer. They're always going to have a chance. If they're making threes, they can beat anybody. So, the question that I have, it was more about LSU. Came in undefeated, hadn't really played anybody, was expecting a test, and obviously this was an ass kicking. So, I've learned nothing from them. I don't want to crush them after the first game, man. But this was this was a beat down here. I wouldn't ate dinner on this one. It was like, all right, man, I'm going in there. Fix me a plate. This ain't coming back from this one, man. So
Yep.
Yeah.
But no,
it's crazy
we'll
when I watch Texas Tech, like it's always crazy to me whenever a player has one side they can play off of, and yet you cannot stop them, right?
Can't stop it.
You literally can't stop them. Heck, Bryce Johnson was the same exact way. If he was left shoulder, right hook, you couldn't stop him, but you couldn't stop him from getting to that way. JT Toppin is even more of that, but getting to his left. And obviously, I don't necessarily expect Christian Anderson to have the type of game that he had today every single game, but if those two are able to kind of lead the ship and everybody else kind of follow along, it is a team that I think is interesting because you wouldn't necessarily look at, like, especially with all these other teams that we've talked about, and say, man, that's a Final Four team. But with the way that they play, the way that they're coached, I mean, heck, he gets after him over there on that sideline. So I think it's once I saw LSU schedule going into the game, because it popped up and I was like, man, 8-0, yeah, okay. And then I went and looked at their schedule leading up to it, and as the game went on, I think there is something to having a little bit of a tougher schedule early on in the season. I think LSU, that was their first test, and it was a rough one. I'll tell you that. We all went through those tests in college when you walk out and you just know you didn't come out with a passing grade, and I think that's kind of what it was today for LSU.
All right, Dagan, what else? I think we got one more here.
Yeah, one more game I want to talk about, but it comes with a question for you guys quickly. Trivia question. Do you guys know who holds the winning streak or the longest winning streak in the country? Anybody have any idea?
I hate trivia like this because it just makes you look like an idiot when you don't know it. I don't know it.
They played today and they got themselves a 21-point win. That is the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Moved to 9-0 in this season. They won 4 games to end last year because they won the crown, I believe is what they won. So they're a 13-game winning streak. Thoughts on the Cornhuskers quickly before we get to our toasts?
Justin, anything there?
How does that win streak count? That's what I'm confused. How does the win streak count from last year? Did you come up with that stat?
That's just what I just read them off.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's an analytical guy. He's reading us his analytics.
Okay. Big numbers guy, huh? Respect. I mean, heck, Nebraska's the same team that beat BYU in an exhibition early on in the before the regular season started. So, I mean, when I saw that, it was okay. I'll throw a little bit. I'll dabble with Nebraska. That was kind of my mindset. So they got shooting, obviously. They could sneak up on a few teams. We'll see. Time will tell.
RC,
they've been good. They've been, like, I tell you what, they're better than people give them credit for, and they beat some good teams. I think Winthrop's been good. I think they beat Kansas State, New Mexico. They beat Oklahoma. Like, they beat some pretty solid teams. Now, are they top 15, top 20 good? We'll find out. I wouldn't go on a stretch there. But credit to them. They've beaten the teams that they needed to beat, but also they've beaten some really good teams there, and so credit to them. It's they're going to be an interesting year for them when they get in the Big Ten play. But they've taken care of business outside of conference, man. So I can't complain about it now. I just don't know how good they are. That's an ass kicking today against Creighton. Big East we've talked about all year long. They've been as disappointing as any conference from a conference perspective. They've been as disappointing as any. That league is so wide open right now. It's been UConn, and like I said, I'm not at all on St. John because of the drop. But after that, it's like, coin flip. So, but I don't know how good Nebraska is yet. I need to watch them a little bit more and go a deeper dive into them. But credit to them. They've good start to them.
All right, toast of the night. Let's get it. Who wants to go first? Justin, you got a toast of the night tonight?
It's funny. We were just talking about Christian Anderson. I think he went on his own 10-0 run today against LSU. And heck, I mean, there was nothing that LSU could do with him. 27, 8 assists. I think he had 5 threes. So I'll toast to him, man.
Dig that. RC?
I'm going to Darryn Pierre with SMU, man. Balled out tonight, but more importantly to the Mustangs, man, getting a win against Texas A&M. They had the game in control. I thought they gave it away at the end. They fought back. Much needed big win for SMU, man. Watch out for SMU, man. They're legit. They're 9-1, like their team.
Heard it here
everybody's
first.
talking about. Not everybody wants to play those guys.
What conference they in? RC, what conference they in?
Remind him, man. Remind Mark,
That's
man.
crazy.
He don't know. He watching the American basketball, man. He ain't watching the league no more.
Yeah, they tricked their way into y'all's league, man. I can't believe y'all took the money, bro. That's crazy. That's crazy. I can't, y'all really claiming SMU? I would have thought y'all would not claim them, honestly. As OG members of the ACC.
They in the league. Look, man. I can't. Hey, man, you got to adapt with the times. Give them credit. You just mad. Hey, come on. Tell Memphis. Hey, send Memphis paperwork over, man. We'll talk about it.
Bro, we've been trying to buy our way into the Big 12 for 12 years, man. We just offered $250 million. They said no thanks. We don't even want your money. Crazy. It's killing me, man. This American League is just god awful. It's seasonal depression. I got to watch this bullshit. I mean, it hurts. It hurts for 3 months out of the year. I'm going to give a toast to the Hofstra Pride going into Pitt, 8.5-point underdogs, getting the win outright. I mean, that's bad news for Jeff Capel. I mean, I do need to balance out the ACC Love Fest here on the show. I think they are.
You was the one giving it.
Huh?
You was the one giving.
I was. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I did do that. I'm gonna give it to Hofstra. So, and Dagan, is that it? Is that all we got?
No, I have a toast.
Oh, Dagan has a toast. Please,
I do.
The floor
to
is
Notre
yours.
Dame. He's toasting the Notre Dame
No,
football.
I'm not. We're not talking about that on this show. Nobody needs to hear what I need to think about the college football committee and everything else. We don't need to get into that. We'll be here for 3 more hours. But I want to give a toast to you guys and myself, fellas. We had a winning weekend because you know what? It's college basketball season now. Nobody cares about college football anymore. Wake Forest got to win. Memphis got to win. North Carolina got to win. And Seton Hall got to win. So toast to us.
Great weekend.
It's college basketball season,
guys.
And who cares about college football?
That's what I'm talking about.
Who cares?
Hell yeah.
My Deeks went on the road too.
Winning is fun.
My Deeks went on the road too.
Yep.
Shout out to y'all.
All right. Well,
cold ass Mountaineers and got that dub.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, that's going to do it for us today on the show. It's been a lot of fun. Make sure you keep it locked here on Field of 68 for all your college basketball content. For Randolph Childress, for Justin Jackson, I'm John Martin. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Have a great week.